This week, we've got good news only. This is the Good Game, Bad Game podcast.
This is a song I wrote about the Good Game, Bad Game podcast. Good Game, Bad Game podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Good Game, Bad Game podcast. I'm your host, Spencer, and with me is a man who's lost an unimaginable... Folks, let's take that from the top. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Good Game, Bad Game podcast. I'm your host, Spencer, and with me is a man who's lost an unimaginable amount of money due to his clipboard budget. It's my co-host, Mike. Mike, how are things going with Syracuse?
Oh, because I'm breaking clipboards?
Yeah, like you're snapping them over your knee. Like, God damn it!
Yeah, I haven't been able to play the game yet.
Yeah, I kind of imagined that was the case.
You know what's really funny? I did all this work to make sure I'd be able to stream from my Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
And we kept getting horrible storms at home, and it took our power out.
Mm-hmm.
And when that happened, it just completely messed up our routers. Like, we have a mesh network.
Uh-huh.
So we have our main router and then 3 other points. And the 3 other points are acting like they got factory reset.
Oh.
Yeah. And now my Xbox just won't connect to the internet. So I don't know. I might just not have any technology anymore.
Gonna be full on mountain man.
Yeah, I was waiting for the day. I'm just glad that it only took my power going out and my internet going out once and not a nuke.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. Better to be ahead of the game than behind.
I got a funny text from Spectrum. Within 2 days of each other. They're like, severe weather is affecting service in your area. And then a couple days later, our internet went down again, and it said, we apologize that another service interruption is affecting your area. Oh, thanks for being so cordial. Now, are you going to lower my bill for the month?
Yeah. I clearly was using less internet.
Yeah. So they just sent me a letter in the mail with a giant wet spot in the middle.
I saw something recently about how somebody was like, I don't think it was internet provider, but it might have been, but they were basically canceling whatever service they had because they were going to go to a different service.
Mm-hmm.
And
you can do that.
You can in some places. Some places you don't have a choice.
Say nowhere I've ever lived.
Yeah, some places you get a choice. I mean, the last place Shelby and I lived, we were able to have either Verizon or Xfinity. And so I bet you can guess what we had.
Starlink.
Yes. But yeah, so the customer rep, whatever, was like, well, before I do this, before I cancel your account for you, can you just let me know why why you're canceling your service? And they were like, it's getting to be too expensive, so I'm gonna go with a cheaper option. And the response was something along the lines of like, we didn't realize you wanted a cheaper option. Let me see what I can do. And then got them and then came back with a different number. And it's like, it takes me telling you, listen, I know as a society, as a human race, we got to be better about assumptions, right? You know, the old adage. But this is one instance where I'm fine with you assuming. Just go ahead and assume I want to pay the least amount possible.
Jeez, that's so funny.
Crazy. Absolutely crazy.
When I moved and I had to call to shut off my Xfinity account, did I tell you the story?
No, but I can only fucking imagine. It's like, I'm no
I
longer
called.
going to be in your service area, please.
That's literally like
Of
they're like,
course.
oh, what can we do to make you stay? And I was like, you and every other cable company can stop being um such just abominations and actually have some competition.
And
I forget exactly what I said to the poor guy, but I was like such a dick.
and they were like, uh, on second thought, we're just gonna go ahead and cancel that for you.
Yeah, that's I literally said something. He's like, "Oh, yeah, we're just gonna cancel your account." I think I said something like, "Well, um, you know, you can maybe just have some competition." And they're like, "No, no, 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 no. We'll just cancel your account.
Hmm.
Like, go to war with Spectrum."
You monsters. You know, it's funny. I don't know how much trouble you've had with Spectrum, um, outside
Less
of
than I've
the
had with Comcast.
yeah yeah. Um, we have Spectrum as well where we live, and like before getting it, um, every I swear everybody we talked to talked constantly about how Spectrum just was ass, and
Mm-hmm.
I had the realization that these people never had Comcast
Yeah.
because I have never had an issue once. Um,
Yeah, I can like pretty confidently say that I haven't gotten throttled with Spectrum yet.
yeah.
My download and upload like have stayed relatively consistent.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm paying way less. Like I'm paying less. I think I'm paying $10 less for Spectrum for gigabit internet. And when I was with Comcast, I had like 300 megabit down.
Hmm.
So I'm paying for essentially three three and a third times more internet speed,
Hmm.
and I'm paying $10 less than I was.
Hmm. Yeah, I know. I was literally about to say the exact same. I mean, that was the case with. I didn't have Starlink. I lied. We had Verizon at our last place. But it was the same thing. It's whatever it is, $80, $70 a month for a gig, and that's exactly what we were paying for Comcast. Mind you, it was now 4 years ago, so I don't know how their packages and stuff have changed. But when we were paying for uh, Xfinity, that is. But anyway, I don't think we were even getting 300 like you were just saying. I think we were maybe getting 100 or something for $60 or $50 or whatever it was for the first year, and then they fucking jack it.
Mm,
They never jack me though. Anyway,
no.
well, I look forward to hearing your experience with college football. I got to be honest, I've been seeing a lot of stuff for it. It's been like kind of dominating gaming Twitter at this point.
Hmm.
And I follow a decent bit of MLB The Show people who have been fed up with the game this year and have been excited to jump to a different sports game. And um, this is in no way supposed to dissuade you or anything or dissuade anybody, but just from myself watching it, I was just like, I the gameplay itself, I don't get me wrong, I imagine the recruiting and all that stuff and the actual management stuff that you get to do is I'm sure a ton of fun, but actually watching the gameplay, I was just like this doesn't do it for me. It looks like the same kind of crap that Madden has been in terms of just those long runs into your own backfield, just snaking back and forth. and like guiding people around you before you inevitably can spin move once out of it and then run all the way back up to the line of scrimmage before throwing a dime touchdown.
That's
Uh,
for what it's worth.
I'm sure it's a lot of fun, right?
No, I would know. I've been able to play it, but for what it's worth, that's like actually college football.
That is true. That is true. It is pretty true to form. Um, but I've seen a lot of really funny content too around it, and I'm sure the game is a blast. Um, the the one thing I saw was somebody posted like the final score. It was like 209-3, and they were just like doing like the coach press conference, and they were just like, we're gonna learn from this. We're gonna study the tape, but at the end of the day, defense got to play better. And like that made me like that made me audibly laugh. Like I like thought that was hilarious. So I do look forward to hearing your experience with it, and I'm excited that you're gonna get your hands on it
Yeah,
soon enough.
I'm excited to take Syracuse to 30 straight national championships.
Like no other.
Yep.
I expect nothing less from you.
Yeah, I have to figure out what other team I want to do that with because 30 seasons is not nearly enough time for me. As someone who has gone through that in Madden,
Mm-hmm.
I will certainly do it in college football.
How many games is a college football season?
It's a really good question. I think it's kind of volatile. Like I don't think it's necessarily the same, and it's not the same like per conference. So, like Syracuse only plays. Let's see, every Saturday from. Well, no, not even necessarily every Saturday. I want to say it's like 12 to 14 usually. Again, depending on conference.
And like of those 12 to 14 games, only like 4 of them are real.
Like against competitive teams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's always my favorite aspect of college football. Just like, oh, who's Alabama playing this weekend? Oh, they're playing the 312th ranked D1 football team. This should be fine.
Playing Chattahoochee Community College.
I'm counting on Syracuse's site. 7, 8, 9, 10. It looks like they have 12 this year.
Yeah.
And then bowl games, right?
Right.
And do you just well, they changed the playoff format of college football now, right? So there's more teams than the old 4, right?
Yeah, I think it's like isn't it like a 16 team playoff now?
Maybe. I mean, that sounds maybe right. So then obviously you have more games there. So
Yeah.
all told, if you're going to 30 national championships, that's you're playing 30 seasons worth minus the playoffs of a Madden season. It would roughly come out to, it sounds like. So yeah, not enough.
Yeah.
More. He needs more.
That's fine. I'll just move on and take like University at Buffalo to 30 and I don't know.
Is
UConn to 30.
Is every like D1 team, every D1 school in the game? I don't even know how
No.
college football works. Oh, so
There's like 122 teams, so it's not all of them.
So I can't take good old Bobby Moe.
I doubt they're in it.
They were the 317th ranked D1 team that I was talking about.
Did that actually happen?
No, they did not play Bama. No.
Oh.
No. Sorry. they were just always very terrible. They played Kentucky in basketball.
Oh, nice.
Little
In
little
the
claim to
tournament?
fame. No, in the NIT,
Oh, just oh.
which is a tournament. So if you meant the NIT tournament,
No.
yes.
Well,
If you meant the March Madness, no, they played Duke in that and got shit on by Jaleel Okafor, if I remember correctly.
and where is he now?
Right, exactly. So in the end, Bobby Moe stays winning.
Yep.
Okay. Let's get into our news for the week. Real quick, apologies to the dear listeners, since this will probably end up being a rather truncated and short episode. A lot going on for both of us, so and you may have noticed that the episode came out a little late because we're recording this on Thursday morning. So apologies in advance. Next week is our 200th episode, so hopefully we can have some fun with that, and I'm sure we will. But yeah, get that little housekeeping out of the way, and let's dive into the stories. I was being a little like news gremlin or whatever you want to call me, which is normally what I am on Tuesday nights before we need to record, as I try to scramble to figure out what the hell we're going to talk about. Because I feel like anymore, there's never like, it feels like there's never actually like good conversation happening on Twitter anymore, which is where I normally spend my time.
No.
No.
Hmm.
There's not any good conversation around, those random gaming stories. It's just a impossible place to actually get like good conversation. So I go around to like the big however many, and I would love to be more on top of it and actually in the weeds, but I'm not. And I was on Games Radar and was going through some of the stuff that they had, and honestly, kudos to Games Radar for not having just a ton of negative stuff. And I noticed over the span within the same 24-hour window, they posted 3 very specific articles that like stood out to me in an attempt to try and talk about some like fun and more like, I'd say, just generally good, non-negative at the very least, news. I guess anything can have a negative spin, but that's not really the purpose of this. So just real quick, the articles that we're going to be touching on, as they all kind of just fit in together. So the first one is, years ago, CDPR found a farmer who was remaking The Witcher inside The Witcher 3, brought him from Australia to Poland, and now he's working on The Witcher 4. So that's the first one. Okay. The second one, which what a title. The second one is, quote, go and learn how to mod. CD Projekt lead says half of the people making quests for Cyberpunk 2 right now are former modders. And then the final one is, Baldur's Gate 3 modders say the RPG's official mod toolkit is already transforming previously tedious tasks. Quote, I'm no longer writing, now I'm painting. So you can see the general through line and the theme of all of these articles. And I just thought it would be fun to kind of like discuss this idea of, the old pull yourself up by your bootstraps, learn how to do something, and good things will happen to you. It's not surprising to start off, to me at least, it's not surprising that it's CD Projekt Red, for 2 of the headlines. The 2 headlines specifically, employing people, and then at the same time, not surprising to me that it's Larian Studios as well with Baldur's Gate 3. Baldur's Gate 3 and Cyberpunk, 2 of the biggest games easily, even with Cyberpunk's, I'll say bad launch, to put it lightly. But both of those games are obviously massive. So to kind of see them at the forefront of of modding and stuff like that is, I would say, not surprising, but yeah, just really cool. Um, Pause because I rambled. Mike, please.
No, that was good. I got nothing to add. Show's over.
No, so
Um,
go ahead.
no, I do have kind of one overarching thought about this, and um, I think something that I really appreciate is companies like CDPR giving people a chance and giving them the tools to learn how to do this and essentially like get a step into game development. Um, I think you know, getting into game development is already incredibly challenging.
Mm-hmm.
And you add the paper ceiling on top of that, and it just kind of makes it impossible for a lot of people who want to be in that industry. Um, but to unlock your games and give toolkits for people to make the game what in their vision,
Mm-hmm.
I think is really cool. And then for these companies to say, hey, since you know how to do this, you know how to build for our game, so why don't you come do that?
I
I
mean,
just
exactly.
I really appreciate the almost vocational training that they're offering, and then actually like I don't know. I work in an industry where there's tons of companies that give you training, but like as long as you haven't gone to college for it's either you have to go to college for the thing to get a job, or you need to like somehow weasel your way into a company and work there for 15 years before like a bigger company will even consider you.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that's such a stupid like um self-righteous way of recruiting people to do a certain job. And if you give people a really quick like swim lane to get into building video games, like there's no reason that if they can prove they can do it, they shouldn't have a job doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, 100%. And I think like it's not necessarily that, we need to get into the meat and potatoes of each one of these articles. I think like even just understanding the overarching like point of it is really what I wanted to discuss. And I think like yeah, like it's great that, and it's not just CD Project Red, it's not just Larian. There's a pretty good modding community out there for tons of games. But I think to see when it's like they're like you're saying giving the actual tools to do it. When you're letting people just to explore their creativity, some pretty fantastic things can happen. As seen by a dude building The Witcher inside of The Witcher 3. Like, what is that? Like,
Yep.
that's got to be one of the most insane things I've ever read. Like I'm building a game inside of a game to working on the next installment of the series. It has got to be one of the coolest things I've ever read within gaming. I think when you give people the tools to explore their creativity, to unlock their own potential, I think industry and society as a whole, right, can be a lot better for it. um it's one of the reasons why I'm so like staunchly against using AI as like a replacement for a lot of like artistic purposes and for a lot of creative avenues, because there's just something unmatched about like the human element. um and also my wife is an artist, so um, gotta be in solidarity there. Um, but yeah, how is this not just like the perfect perfect case study, use case for giving people the options. And I want to touch on Baldur's Gate 3 specifically. Um,
Did somebody mod the bubbles away? Or that was The
uh,
Witcher. Never mind. Sorry.
no, they're just talking. They excuse me. So the modding tools will officially roll out to like the general public in September as part of the next major patch. But certain people within the community have gotten the opportunity to like test them out. And so this article is really like diving into you know the general review of people who have gotten like hands-on experience. And I gotta find the exact quote. It's the one basically used in the title, but I'm just gonna read this entire segment. Um, Again, this is from Games Radar. One of the modders who's been testing the toolkit out is Tech Robot, the creator of the popular Faerun Colors mod, which adds a whole load of themed dyes to the RPG for all the Baldur's Gate 3 fashion icons out there. In a comment shared by Larian, TechRoot, I don't know if I said that right the first time. I feel like I read Tech Robot. Anyway, TechRoot notes that up until now, his mod had to be, quote, written entirely in code. And as you'd imagine, transforming the exact tone of colors without seeing it is no easy task. The official toolkit has changed that, though. Quote, now the toolkit allows me to select exactly the color I want where I want it and see how another 1,000 colors I hadn't even thought of do look. I'm no longer writing, now I'm painting. Tasks that used to be tedious, like creating icons and registering them within the game, have now been transformed into easily understandable and usable menus.
Hmm.
It sounds like, the toolkit that Larian is putting out there is like a modder's wet dream, right? Like, figuring out ways again to tap into letting people explore those creative avenues. Um, I am not in the modding community. I've never modded a game. I've never even, I don't think, downloaded a mod for a game. Yeah, I think that's right. But in a lot of ways, what was just said there kind of reminds me of how different coding languages in general um, interact differently, right? Or like the way to write code within them can have minor to major differences.
Mhm.
So it's been a minute since I've used it, but like Python, for example, is like you can kind of it's like you're almost just talking. It's like conversational, and you can like uh, create code that way, right? It's very simple, really. I guess is the best way of putting it. Whereas other ones can be very specific about caps and stuff like that, right? That's how it kind of read to me there, is that it's like we're finding ways to kind of like ease the friction of various modding tools to get people into that creative space quicker. Um, and I think that's, obviously, again, fantastic.
Yeah, I think this kind of goes to my point earlier in that so many things in the past 30 years have been gate kept behind knowing how to code.
Mm-hmm.
And like tons of people, the people that I know that are the best at coding just learned how to do it online, but then also had to go to college to like be legitimized and then actually get a job. And I think, you know, that Larian kind of seeing um just the shift, and even in like enterprise tools, like everything is low code or no code now.
Mm-hmm.
And those products are typically more successful right now because you open up the base of people who know how to use it. And there are problems in that as well, but um you know, I think video games in themselves are already very technical, so then to have to be very technical to mod them just uh, amplifies that a little. So to just have like these low code, no code tools is, I think that's awesome.
Yeah, and then again, like, you know, to see it as um it hasn't happened quite yet in the case of Baldur's Gate, right? For like modder to working on the next game pipeline yet, but that's the other fantastic thing I think about a lot of gaming companies is that they are watching, right? Like they are aware of how people are using the tools and stuff. You brought it up before we even started talking. You brought up Fallout London because that was back in the news cycle, um, which we talked about that. It's got to be like going on 2 years since we last talked about Fallout London. Um, and actually, if you didn't see um, the royal you, not just you, Mike, but when Bethesda released Fallout for the like next gen consoles, they did that like update or upgrade, whatever. The creator of Fallout London was saying that like that kind of had somewhat of a negative impact on the project and is causing them certain issues and stuff like that. Which is kind of a shame because again, we know that these companies know about projects, especially a project that is that big. I believe Bethesda had even commented on it previously. Um, that said, they also don't necessarily owe anything to these projects, which is kind of the shame of it and the unfortunate truth. Um, but anyway, I don't really know where I was going with that, but just again, like you get noticed, and sometimes in the case of these two CVPR articles, it can lead into full time jobs, um, which is just again like one of the more wholesome. It's better than dude hacks bank hires him as security expert.
Mhm.
Wholesome, you know. Nothing like your resume being a on the fly audition, but yeah, it's almost a nicer form of that.
Yeah.
And it's just fascinating and fun and like crazy and wild. I wish everybody had the opportunity to kind of just not luck really, but like to kind of just be doing the thing that they love and be recognized for it and be given opportunities off of that.
And I think even within game development, like, okay, now these studios are starting to um, deploy tools that make it easy for pretty much anybody to modify a game. You know, I think inevitably, if they're not already, they're going to bring that into their regular game development suite. So now, like, and I don't know how much of a problem this is, but in my head, it would be like a writer writes a side quest for a game, and then they have to convey that to a coder to actually like build it out.
Mm-hmm.
And the writer might not have the technical skills to write it out themselves, and the coder might not have like the creativity skills to see like a nuance that the writer was going for.
Mm-hmm.
So like, well, I don't think writers will necessarily be like building out their own sections of games because you need continuity.
Mm-hmm.
They could tweak things. So you could have like a coder build like the main mission, and then um you know the writer, let's say they like write a script where like the character goes into like a dark shadowy hallway,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't think that the coder quite got what they were imagining in their head right. They could go in and make little tweaks.
Kind of be given the bones to
Right.
the jumping off point, and then yeah, the cleanup, the minor tweaks, like you're saying. Yeah, I mean, it could have obviously a pretty significant impact on development cycle and stuff like that. Um, I'm sure by getting more people the opportunity to understand the tooling
Mhm.
or to have the ease of using the tooling. So, um, yeah, I don't know if I really have much else. Is this the motivation for you to learn how to do some modding? Are you gonna try and get on board for whatever Cyberpunk 3 ends up being?
Uh, that would be kind of cool. Will I do it? Probably not. But I also don't have a gaming PC.
Yeah, yeah.
All that being said, we have seen. I know, namely Bethesda. I'm assuming other places have done it by now, but actually start introducing modding for console.
Mm-hmm.
So that's cool.
It's there. It's just not nearly as robust, and it's understandable in some ways. I would love to see um, modding um, kind of have more of a opportunity on console, but I don't know how feasible or realistic of an expectation that is.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I'm assuming that decision comes down to PlayStation and Xbox.
Right. It's certainly down to the hardware locks they put in place.
Yeah.
Well,
So that's the sort of unfortunate, aspect of modding. I mean, I think certainly one of the games that I've known um, that's been modded to there and back, aside from Gary's mod, which is in the name, uh, is like Minecraft, right? Like think about all the Minecraft mods that there
sure.
are out there, and yeah, unfortunately, really only on PC. Some stuff started coming to console, like those mods that basically just create like uh puzzles. It's not even really a mod necessarily, but those like puzzle challenge type things. I don't know if you've ever seen those that are like built out within Minecraft. Like I know like some of those like more I'll say lightly professionally built things have been put on console, but
Hmm.
certainly not like Galacticraft or whatever the hell it was, where you're like building in space and building out off of a 1 by 1 block and stuff like that. And it's like those are the like challenge type mods that have always to me seemed the most interesting, and they just have not found a way to like get that onto console, which kind of sucks. But yeah, anything else that you want
No,
to say in regards to modders getting jobs?
no. Good news for the week.
Good news for
Feels
the
good.
week.
Feels good, man.
Feels okay, man. All right. Well, hopefully that was some positive news for y'all to listen on the way to work, or I just assume that's when most people listen to podcasts. Like I said at the top, next week is episode 200. So, Mike, we got to come up with some sort of fun plan for that. But I'm looking forward to
Try
that.
try to build a mod.
We can try and build a good game, bad game podcast mod that allows you to better enjoy the podcast. Because that's really what
Yeah.
mods do, right? They push the game to its full potential.
Yeah. Or
So
we could mod Cyberpunk to put GGBG radio in the game. That's the only way you can listen to episode 200,
you have
which
to
is
play Cyberpunk.
just us making the mod.
Yeah. It's actually a lot of just silence
Yeah.
as we put our heads down and try and get some work done.
10 seconds in, we're like, I don't know what I'm doing.
3 hours in, I'm starting to think this isn't a good podcast idea.
4 hours in, pay somebody on Fiverr to make the mod, put it in Cyberpunk. Tell everyone we did it.
Profit.
Yeah.
So look forward to that episode 200 next week. Unless I have my numbers off, and I'll cry after this. Other than that, thank you all so much for listening. As always, do really appreciate it. If you could do us a favor and leave us a rating or review wherever you do listen to the podcast, that would also be greatly appreciated. And then the last thing that would be, of course, greatly appreciated would be if you would share this podcast with a friend or really just anybody. It can be an enemy. We don't really care. Just do it. We'll appreciate it greatly. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you next week.